we do every single week. And this week it's a little bit different. And that's because I'm hanging out with my friends Lee and Aisha, and they are with Clear Title and Escrow. We do a lot of work together. And as I normally tell you guys, whenever we're going through the world of buying a home, it's all about the team and the people that you have beside you. So I vouch for these two individuals. They are amazing at what they do. Let them introduce themselves. So Lee, can you go ahead and just introduce yourself to the public today?
My name is Lee Schillinger. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law in Florida for 47 years. And I work with Clear Title and Escrow with Aisha Lara, my partner, who actually is the person that makes all of the transactions work. She opens the files, she closes the files, and anybody that comes will be dealing with Aisha. And she really is the brains of the operation.
Awesome. Aisha definitely has the magic. So tell me, girl, tell them about you a little bit.
Uh-oh. So I've been in title for about 15 years. I work with Lee, Clear Title. I'm here day and night.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much. And we love what we do.
Awesome. Awesome. So, guys, whenever you are getting yourself into buying a home, right? There's so many different phases, and Lee can probably talk about this later on in the show, that there's all these third-party individuals that are trying to make this happen for you. I normally have the number in my head of 17 people that have to have all their ducks in a row so that you can get yourself into a home. And whenever you're kind of recruiting to go through this journey, right? When you're building that team, it's crucial for you to have the right people with you. So, being that they specialize in the space of title, right? I'm sure a lot of you are like, well, what's the point of title? What's title insurance? What's coverage? Like, what is all that? That's going to be what we're going to cover today on the show. Now, if you guys have absolutely anyone that may have some questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. Please also share the video. Reason being is maybe you already know this, but someone in your friends list does not, and this is a lot of value for them. So to start off, let's start off with the most simple question, and Lee or Aisha, you can answer it, and it's, what is title insurance?
Title insurance is actually an insurance policy. It has a one-time premium. It's paid when the purchase of the property occurs. It's based on the value of the land that's being purchased, and it ensures that the title is clear. That means that it ensures that there has been correct transactions all the way from the time that that Spain deeded the property, got transferred all throughout each transaction, all the way down to your purchase. And sometimes there have been problems, and somebody will come along and claim that they actually have the right to your land. Title insurance ensures that if that happens, they will hire the lawyer, they will defend against any claims. If in fact there was a mistake made and the other person was correct, they will pay you up to the value that you paid for the land. And you could lose just a small piece of your land, and it might be worth at that point as much as you paid for the whole piece of property, and you'll end up with the rest of your land with payment in full.
Wow.
So that's what title insurance does.
So just for the sake of clarity, I think it's the first time I've heard this, and I might have heard wrong, but you said title insurance covers you until the time where who deeded the land?
Well, we're in Florida. So
I know.
I went back to Spain, because that's where if you they don't use abstracts anymore. But when I started practicing, we had abstracts, and it would go all the way back to the grant from Spain.
You see, Lee, this is the reason why we do this, because even through this process, people are going to see this video now, later on YouTube. Even those that are going to hear it on the podcast, they're going to learn something new. But guess what, guys? I just learned something new. I did not know that it went all the way back to when Spain deeded the land. So realistically, you can have Juan Antonio Marrero Rodriguez Guerrero, whatever it is. He sold that land to John Smith, and John Smith bought it. That's pretty interesting. That is good. Learn something new every day. That's pretty awesome. So moving on to the next one, which I think has to do exactly what we were covering, which is, how much coverage do I need? And is it value based, like on the current market value, for example, of my home?
Now, actually, it's based on the value, the full value that you've paid for the land. So it's the market value at the time of the purchase. And they have two kinds of policies. They have one for the owner, which covers the full purchase price, and they have one for the lender, which covers the amount of the loan, so that both the lender and the purchaser are fully covered.
Got
And
it.
um, so therefore, what happens is that when and you ask, can it cover up to the market value? Normally, it covers up to the full value that you paid. However, if in fact there's a question of a slight portion of the land, for example, in Golden Beach, Golden Beach is a big island. It goes around, and the surveyors, when they surveyed it, started at one end and then started and went the other way. And when they got to the middle, there was an overlap. So if you happen to have that piece of property that was right in the middle, you could have your piece of property that you build on it measuring from what you think is your setback, but from the other house, it's too close. So you could create a port where you didn't lose all your property, but you did lose a little piece of it. And they value the land based on the market value at the time of the claim. So the market value may have gone up, and if you aren't entitled to that little piece, the title insurance company will pay you for the then present market value of that little strip, which could be worth almost as much as you paid for the whole land.
Wow.
So you could end up still owning the rest of the lot, unless that strip, plus you have that property. Or the title insurance company will provide the lawyer, they'll pay for the lawyer to go to the city and get the necessary variances so that you can keep what you have and to correct the problem. And that's what
Got it. Okay, and this might just be one of those questions, is because I know I have a lender talk, for example, when I start talking about debt to income and stuff. But what would you say is a variance, just for those that don't necessarily hear that term every day?
a variance is where you have a zoning ordinance that has a restriction normally on setbacks. That means how far the house has to be built from the edges of the property line. And if there's some kind of a hardship that's not self-created, for example, if you have a pie-shaped piece of property and you're building a square house on it, and you have a restriction that says you have to be 20 feet from the property line, if you have a pie-shaped piece of property, it's going like a triangle, so that you're going to have a wider at the front and narrower at the back. And so a variance would be the legal permission to build closer than the 20 feet that's required from the setback because of that. Now, it's generally not self-created. So it has to
Got
be
it.
something that's not self-created. But that's what a variance is. It varies the ordinance laws to allow a use that otherwise would be prohibited.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm gonna throw Aisha a curveball here. Okay, and this is and I say a curveball, guys, because how we all run around, right? I myself, you guys know my office, run around. I'm like, hey guys, let's hang out for like 5 minutes before we start the show, just to make sure. Number one, I want to see how the day was, right? But number two, just to make sure that we know what we're gonna talk about today, right? But this is one that I didn't ask her within those 5 minutes, right? So, so Aisha, obviously, Lee and yourself run Clear Title and Escrow, right? And you guys pretty much run an operation there.
Right.
What does that look like? Like, what is your day in and out, like in the morning? What is it that it entails for you to work title?
Are you talking about now, or are you talking about before coronavirus?
You see, that's a great differentiator. Yeah. So how about we talk about, like, Aisha, what your day is regularly like, right? And then the layers that COVID maybe added.
Basically, we come in, we work on our new files, we touch base with all our clients. I touch base with Lee. He works from his house now, so we touch base all day through telephone, and then I visit him sometimes. But constantly on the phone, and with the lenders and the buyers, the sellers, the realtors, sometimes other attorneys, and just getting the deals done.
So would you say that part of your day, for example, is like the world of surveys? Is that something that you have to kind of always be in contact with the surveyors or the companies that do that?
The lien search companies, the lenders, everyone.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I want to pertain to the public is that the way that I view title, for example, is that title is that glue in the transaction that links everyone together. This is just me from my perspective, just because I know that I run this direction whenever a client says, Freddie, I need $300,000 to get a home. And I'm like running over there. I'm like, oh my God, I got to find a way to get them $300,000. Right. And then I know that our fellow agents that we work with, they're also like, I got to make sure that I'm negotiating this and I'm attending the inspection and I'm doing all that. And then I feel like there's a whole bunch of these filler things that need to happen in between so that title is clear, so that survey's taken care of, so that we got to make sure that there's no liens, to make sure that all these little things are happening. And these things take time. It's not like you yourself can go do the survey, right? So you have to also, you almost like you're a project manager almost when it comes to the project of acquiring a home. I can't hear you. No, you probably fixed it there.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Perfect.
Oh, we feel like that with the lender too. Without the lender getting the financing and making sure they can get the loan, I mean, it doesn't even get to us. So I feel like the lender is the most important.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. Thank you. But we all work super hard in making it happen for you guys. So for you guys that are watching, because I see we have a good number of people watching right now, guys, share on your news feed or to a friend, maybe message it to someone. I think Facebook allows us to do that. And the point is for that individual that hasn't gotten there, they might have questions, and for them to be able to drop the comments. Now, if you're not watching this live, because we know that Facebook reruns things depending on the algorithm that they have, still feel free to drop the question, because at the end of the day, if it's me, Lee, or Aisha that we see the question later on, we're still going to go ahead and answer it on the actual video. And at the end of the day, if you have any questions, you can also reach out directly to us. So being that we have Lee on here, and he's an attorney, you said for 47 years, right, Lee?
That's correct.
One of the main questions that we see is, do I need an attorney? What's the difference in this space of having an attorney in a title state, correct?
Yes.
Right. So where's that difference? Why do we need to have Lee on our team?
Because many times something happens where there's a dispute that you want to make sure is protected, even from the beginning when the contract is being prepared, to make sure that all of the buyer's rights are protected and to make sure that all the seller's rights are protected. And then during the course of the closing, sometimes questions will come up or issues will come up that the title company will find, or there may be disputes between the buyer and the seller as to what furniture they want to keep, or what personal equipment, or like fans, things like that, and what the contract provide. And so you're going to need somebody to represent you. Just having a neutral that's just making sure you get the deed is really not there to protect you. The attorney is there to protect your rights.
100%. And I think that's one of the biggest points. So many of you out there know I used to actually be a broker prior to being on the lending side. I had my real estate team up in Tampa. And I think that was one of the main points, that it was, I'd rather have an attorney than not, because if I have to flex a muscle, I'm going to call in Lee and just say, Lee, I need you to make a quick phone call and just flex around those 47 years, bam, 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 and just make it happen, you know? That's so that to me, I agree with you on that one. So, all right. So one that we wanted to cover is, do we need a new title insurance when we go and actually get a new home? Right, we're getting the home. I'm Mr. Buyer. I find it. I'm like, oh, great. But then I'm like, well, the seller has insurance. Why do I need to worry about getting it? I mean, he got it from someone. Someone got it from someone. And at the end, Juan Guerrero de Maria was the one that gave the land. So why should I have to get my what surprises can I have here, Lee?
Well, first of all, the title insurance that goes to your prior owner doesn't really go to you. So if somebody comes along when you own it and makes a claim, you don't have the ability to go to the prior owner's title insurance policy. And the other reason is, for the reason that I've sort of alluded to previously, is that sometimes there's a mistake that didn't get picked up in the prior owner's title policy. Like there was a case that down in Dade County where property had been platted after the owner had already sold some of the land. So now Dade County has said that certain property is going to have a plat. That's why when you get a house and it says it's lot 1 of block 10, that's platted. But before a plat, the surveyors use what's called meets and bounds descriptions, where they go out and they survey it, and they know that it's so many feet, so many inches, and it's so many angles, and so forth. And so what happens is you can have two different kinds of descriptions, and the property may be different. And if you have a mistake that was made, like in this case, it actually happened where they had a legal description from a plat that said that the person had 50 feet more, 50 lineal feet more than they really did because it was owned by the other owner.
Wow.
And so that mistake was carried down through several transactions. There was a title insurance policy that insured against it. And then my client luckily had a new title insurance company, which actually picked up the same descriptions because it had been so followed along for so long. And then when my client decided to develop the land, he found out that 50 lineal feet wasn't his.
Wow.
And the neighbor next door made a claim that he wanted his land. The title insurance company had to come in and resolve it. And that 50 lineal feet had a value by that point that was almost as much as my client had paid for the entire several acres. So he ended up with everything less than 50 feet and hardly paid for it. But on the other hand, it turned into a multi-million-dollar lawsuit that the title insurance company had to pay for. And they did. And so my client came away whole. My client actually came away with money in his pocket as a result of it. And that's what title insurance does for you. But if he had not bought the title insurance and had relied only on the prior policy, he would have had a loss and would never have been able to get back his money.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this question, because I think it's great that you kind of identified that whenever that new person comes in, that insurance kind of falls off. So can I give you just a quick hypothetical, guys? We know that he's an attorney. All right. So we're not quoting him on this. This is our group here. All right. But I'm just going to ask Lee for a hypothetical. Okay. So I buy a home from Mr. Seller, right? But 100 years ago, third party that used to own the home passed away and willed the house somewhere in a random will, right? That's found later in time. But I buy the same home, right? And then that bloodline comes down and says, well, hold on, my grandfather willed me this land. And now you're the owner that bought the house, let's say cash, because the lender would have required him title insurance, right?
Right.
But he bought it cash. He chose not to get title insurance. What we're saying is that now that individual now is going to spend a lot of money fighting someone else because someone's grandfather willed them the land 100 years ago. Did I hear you correctly?
That's correct. That's exactly correct. If he had borrowed the money from a lender, the lender would have required title insurance. So he would have had the benefit, because when the title insurance is being issued, they issue both the owner's policy and the lender's policy simultaneously. And the lender's going to not close without the title insurance. So these type of problems usually arise where the buyer is funding it himself without borrowing money. The lender, in protecting the lender's interest, is also protecting the buyer's interest. So it's when the buyer is doing this totally on their own and they're looking to save a few bucks that they leave themselves totally exposed, like you say, because then they end up having to hire a lawyer, having to go to court, and they could very well lose if it turns out that it belonged to somebody else.
So we're saying that in that scenario, someone's grandfather, that if they end up losing the case, there's a chance that that person that had a home, let's say for 10, 15 years, no longer has a home. They lost the property.
If the facts were sufficient to allow it, if the court ruled that way, and if they didn't have title insurance, they would end up losing all the money they had paid to the prior seller. They could try to sue the other seller, but good luck in trying to find them and trying to collect their money back. Whereas
Correct.
title insurance is there and will, under those, it's unusual circumstances, But most of these claims usually arise under unusual circumstances. It's something that happened that somebody missed somewhere, and they are technical, and it
Wow.
does happen. So that's why it pays. And like I said, the lender, in protecting the lender's interest, is also protecting the buyer's interest. So the buyer is better off doing whatever the lender tells them to do, because their interests are going to be protected that way.
Exactly. Wow, that's crazy. So, we're breaking that 20-minute line, and I want to make sure I know that we all have to kind of go into our things there. Now, Lee,
Yes.
in the world that we live in today, it's been big when it comes to cyber security and the way that things are, kind of the theft that's happening with emails and all that stuff. Now, mind you, I know that as organizations, we do absolutely everything to protect our clients' information. But in the world right now of wire transfers, right?
Right.
What would you say, or Aisha, maybe you can key in here, drop a little bit of gold. What should be some steps? Let's say Freddie, they speak to Freddie and I tell them, hey guys, congratulations, you're clear to close. Aisha and Lee are going to be with you tomorrow. The steps clearly are they need to wire their funds for their cash to close. What should they do from that point to the moment that they get to the closing table?
Well, we send them the cash to close with the wiring instructions, and we always call to verify wiring instructions now. And I also text them, just because it's safer to text them than email them. And then I call the client and we verify the account number and the wire info.
But you have to be very careful to make sure that you call before you send the wire, to make sure that the information that you have as to where to send it to is accurate. Because there are people out there that somehow find out about this closing that's going to occur, and they will send an email that looks like it's coming directly from the closing agent, and will give false information to misdirect the funds.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of stories about this where people have lost a lot of money.
Yeah, I know of one individual personally that was affected, and it was almost six figures that they had an issue with. The local FBI office had to get involved. They had to make sure that a whole bunch of things were taking place. Luckily, they were able to grab the money before the money left the country.
That's wonderful. You don't hear that all the time.
Not all the time, and trust me, that's the last headache you want to have. Not knowing if you're going to go ahead and lose out $70,000, $80,000 when the moment that you were supposed to buy a home. So not only are you stressed that you don't have the money to close, you're also stressed because you lost the money and you don't know if you're ever going to see that money again. So,
somebody who lost 100,000, and by the time the FBI got involved, the money was gone.
See, that's insane. You see, I get frustrated sometimes when I don't hear my alarm in the morning, right? Like that gets me upset. I think losing 100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be that would be completely something else. So, as we wrap up the show, I like to talk a little bit about my guests, right? So, throughout this whole COVID time, it's been, I would say, challenging to find teams that are still playing at a high level, right? And that's kind of the way that I want to kind of draw this out. Individuals that are showing up every single day, playing at a high level and doubling down. And I can vouch for Lee and Aisha when it comes to that. I mean, we've done a good number of transactions this month alone that I have heard many stories of individuals that haven't been able to close, and they've been waiting 90 days on trying to get some things done when we've had our 15 to 20 day closes, right? So anything that you guys want to add before I go ahead and kind of sign us off?
No, we've been here every day working through COVID with Freddie and getting our deals closed. Right,
Making
Lee?
it happen.
Making it happen.
We really appreciate working with you very much, Freddie. And,
I appreciate you.
And as Aisha said, as you can see, we work almost 24/7.
If they have a question, Aisha, what is the best email for you, and what's the phone number where they can go ahead and text you or call you to ask you that question?
Sure. My cell phone, 954-856-5228. And my email is Aisha, AISHA @lawflorida.com.
Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to take another 3 seconds. Give me that number again.
954-856-5228.
Boom. And how about we just do this? And we literally just make it a ticker at the bottom so people can't even have an excuse anymore. All right. So I appreciate you guys for coming on and hanging out with me. We have to definitely do it more often because I know many questions are going to come out of this while this video rolls. Guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in as well. Again, share it if you can. I'm sure there's someone that can see some value from this information. And if you have absolutely any questions, just reach out to us. I appreciate you guys. You guys have an amazing evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.